everyone. Welcome to Reddit on Reddit, the internet's auditory version of Reddit. I'm Nelson Allingham, joined by Michael Campbell.
Do you know what I've noticed, Nelson, recently? Normally, whenever, you introduce me, I'm like, hey, how are you, Nelson? Or generally when anyone greets you, you say, hey, how are you?
Yeah.
But it is no longer a rhetorical question, I feel. I feel like for years and years, how are you is just like a whatever greeting. But now, genuinely, whenever people say it, they're always like, hey, how are you?
Yeah,
so with that in mind, Nelson, how are you?
I'm good.
Yeah, I think this is the...
Is that still my response?
Well, I reckon this is the first week, because we're in a 6-week stage 4 very strict lockdown here in Melbourne. Mm-hmm. And we've just come off several other weeks of being in stage 3, which is also quite strict, as well as obviously months before that of less strict. But I think this is the first week that it's really starting to get to me, you know? Like I feel like pent up. So if I just start screaming at any point during the podcast, that will be why.
Okay, right. For reference, how much have you gone outside? Because you can't go outside to exercise and stuff. Have you been doing that frequently? Or?
Well, I think what it is during the other lockdowns, I would frequently take quite long walks during the day. Stacey and I would go out. But it's in winter here now in Melbourne. And as the weather's been getting progressively worse, that's becoming less of an option. So it's also like the going outside part has also kind of been taken away a little bit. So that's only every few days now that you really go outside for any extended period of time.
Have you thought about trying to reset how you think about going outside?
Okay.
For example, just as an idea, you could sit inside and watch documentaries on serial killers that specifically serial kill those that are just walking the streets.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I'm glad I'm not outside.
Yeah.
Death awaits me outside. In here, no.
I think what I need to form is I think it's called agoraphobia, fear of going out of your house. And if I can somehow form that, I'll be golden.
Yeah. You're living your best life.
Yeah.
I think, try and do a lot of drugs. I imagine actually probably what it is you have to have a traumatic event or events outside. So next time you do go outside, right in front of a car.
Yeah, or if any of the listeners of the show want to set booby traps around my house, that would be great. Because then I'll be too afraid to go outside and I'll just have to adjust. It'll be a bit like Stockholm Syndrome of my house. And agoraphobia all coming together. And then I'll be all right.
Yeah. I like this plan of actually setting up the booby traps around your house.
Yeah. Are you within 5K of me?
It's probably a bit longer, further than that, I think.
Well, but
I'm willing to risk it for your mental health care.
There's probably like an overlap area that we can both go to, and you can set up booby traps around there.
Yeah. So you're like, okay, I can go like 1 kilometer radius around my house, but anything further is danger zone. I like that idea. Anyway, let's get into it, Cambo. I've got one here that'll really, really pep you up.
Great.
It's by Lord Red Apple, and it was in the subreddit news. And the title of this is 20-year-old woman found breathing at funeral home after being pronounced dead.
My worst nightmare.
This is my worst nightmare. This is the most terrifying thing ever. And I was always like, okay, when I was younger, I was like, this is a scary thought. And in fact, I had always thought whenever since the time at which I had conceived this concept that you could be buried alive, I was like, well, I want to be cremated because then I will die within the crematorium sort of part, and then it won't matter that, after that. Like, if I'm not dead, I'm definitely dead after that. And I think it happened so fast as well that, like, I probably, if I was alive I wouldn't go through that much pain.
It'd be like mere seconds.
Mere seconds. But then, like, as I grew older, I was like, you know what? This is like, I'm thinking about the Black Plague times where they had lots of deaths, and they found that because they ended up having to dig up some bodies, I'm pretty sure, just to like make room for more, because a lot of people died.
Well,
and they found like scratches on the inside of the coffin lids. And so me, as I got older, I was like, oh, this is just like a dated thing. Like, we've got science now.
Well, that's the thing. I think I'm probably half remembering a fact that's slightly incorrect here, but even the idea of a wake comes from, time before medicine was advanced enough to fully confirm. They would often have a ceremony of death and then actually put the person out for like a day or so, and they would go off and they would eat and they would drink. It's just to see if they would wake up, because they might not actually be dead. And then if that all went well, they didn't wake up, sure, bury them.
Yeah. They're like, okay, it's definitely, you can't sleep for this long.
But that's now insane. I had assumed that we just kept wakes around for tradition. But now, as it turns out, occasionally quite handy.
I know. I'm going to insist that at my wake, I mean, traditionally now the body is already gone and buried by the time of the wake. I'm going to insist now that I'm in the room, no coffin. I'm just standing there. If they could prop me up on some sort of device where I've got my arms overhanging two wooden panels or something, strapped to a beam.
So kind of like a scarecrow.
Kind of like a scarecrow. Tie me up like a scarecrow.
In fact, put you out in a field just for a few days.
Yeah.
Sunshine might do
crows while I'm at it.
Yeah, you can be useful. Sunshine might do you well. You can scare off some crows. You're being useful. And if you wake up, you wake up. That's fantastic. That is just like icing on the cake.
Yeah. If I'm hungry, I'm already in a field of corn. So
I also believe, is this idea of being buried alive, is that not where the saying "Saved by the Bell" comes from, I believe?
Well,
also, the folklore goes is that people would have bells attached to their wrist, and if they woke up, they would ring it, and people would know that they're not dead.
Yes, they should, and so the funny thing is, I know we've definitely had this conversation.
Yeah, we have. Yeah,
podcast before. Because my fact to follow that is always, well, I remember the phrase "dead ringer" coming from that, but "dead ringer" makes less sense. Saved by the Bell, that makes sense because they're literally saving themselves as they ring the bell.
Yeah.
Dead ringer doesn't make sense because we would say like dead ringer, oh, you're a dead ringer for somebody else. Like like you look similar to somebody else.
Yeah.
How does that make context of somebody ringing it? I don't understand that one.
And I'm not sure. And I also like knowing that is where Saved by the Bell comes from gives a really morbid overtone to the sitcom of the same name. Which is just like a fun preppy high school sitcom, but named after the fact that some people were in fact buried alive.
Well, if you think about the rampant depression in young teens, really they were saved by the bell multiple times. That's their friendship.
That's more of a Degrassi kind of thing to handle, Nelson. They took the heavier storylines.
Yeah. But I just can't believe that, like, now I was honestly so content with the fact that if I was to die, it would be fine because they would know definitively that I'm dead. But this case has just changed my mind completely. Like, how the hell did this happen?
As the family, you'd be pretty angry at the doctor, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Like he comes in, he declares them dead. You arrange a funeral.
Yeah.
The body is transported to the funeral home. And then they discovered that she was it, did you say breathing? Or was
breathing.
Yeah, just breathing. You discover she's breathing and you all look back at the doctor and he's like, oh, whoops.
I didn't mean the definitive term of death. I meant she's dead tired.
Either that or he's got a corpse still on some kind of life support. And he's like, I've really
bubbled this one up. I guess it is sort of... Okay, let's say this. If you're in a hospital, I feel like there's lots of machines and such. to tell you that you're dead. But if you were just dead in like in a house, if you walked in one day in my apartment and I'm just lying dead on the ground, you might get like a medic or something, ambulance work, what they call paramedics. That's what I was saying. And they might declare me dead, but they don't have as many fancy machines.
I think just as a fail-safe, cremation is a good one, but I think the more epic way to do this, Nelson, is open casket. Next to the open casket, a sword, and as people come up to do their last rites, just quick stab through the heart.
Yeah.
Each person. If I'm stabbed 80 to 90 times, I'm dead. I'm happy with the. If I somehow survive that and get buried alive, still, I'm like, look, I should be dead.
I would, if I could feel this pain, I wish I was dead. So, I think, okay. I mean, let's combine everything. Get stabbed a bunch of times. I like that you say, "Oh, if I was stabbed 80 to 90 times." How do you know that many people are going to turn up? Right?
That's real wishful thinking. But
I'd say 3 or 4.
If you're like, hey, there's like an associate of yours, do you want to go to his funeral? Yeah, maybe not. He does have a policy where you do need to stab him in the heart one last time. I might go.
I'm going.
Yeah.
I don't ever think that I'll stab anyone with a sword in my life.
No.
But if given the opportunity to stab a corpse, you better believe I'm first in line.
Yeah.
Also, you know what? Tip me into a volcano. That I feel is more definitive and a quicker death should I be alive.
Yeah. Okay, I think that the ultimate definitive way to make sure that you're definitely dead and that you can't be brought back is and there's going to be a lot of double redundancies here, so just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
First of all, be declared dead at a hospital. That's step one. That's
step one.
Minimum.
Yeah.
And then you're sent to the funeral home, sure they make the preparations. Open casket funeral with the sword, stabby, everyone that comes to do the last rites, stab in the heart. Take that body that's been stabbed, cremate. Where do you put the remains? In a volcano.
In the volcano. Throw it in the volcano.
Throw it in the volcano.
I think we've missed the step of being a scarecrow between the time of being declared dead at the hospital and then getting stabbed.
Yeah. So. You are right. I do apologize. We missed the crucial scarecrow step.
Yeah. All right, Kevin. I think we should move into Ask Reddit. Ask Reddit. This Ask Reddit was cross-posted to us by The Devil Made Me Do It, which I think is a sim.
I think that's a sim.
He said and he also said, for reference, humans have 2,000 to 8,000 taste buds on their tongue. So keep that in mind, Cambo.
Okay.
But the original post was by Top Karate Baby. You get $5 million US. But for every 2 weeks you are alive, a taste bud grows in your butthole. Would you take it? Why not?
Okay.
Now, on this show, we've complained many a time that the monetary value does not weigh. It does not have enough weight. It's like, oh, would you cut off your finger for $1 billion? Like, I'd probably cut off my finger for $1 billion. But this one, I think it's pretty close.
Yeah, so a couple thousand on your tongue. Here's my question, because I'm led to believe, and maybe a doctor, if we have one that listened, or maybe one that cross-posted, could confirm this, but I am led to believe that most of your taste actually comes from your nose and the way that your nose interacts. So it's the smell and the taste. It's kind of all of it activating. So I'm wondering whether a few on your butthole would actually be very, very, very mild.
Here's what you can do. Camber, next time you take a dump, I guess, get a teaspoon out from the toilet, hold your nose, and then eat the teaspoon. Then you'll know what it really tastes like to eat shit. So with 2,000 to 8,000. So and if you're like, oh, well, that wasn't terrible,
every 2 weeks you get one taste bud. Is that right?
Yeah.
So I suppose at what point does a single taste bud do anything? You know what I mean? Or is there like a threshold of like you need 600 to 700 taste buds before you really start developing a taste for anything? And how much time does that buy you? And how much medical research could $5 million do into getting taste buds removed?
Yeah.
Like if you were to cauterize your butthole in some way to burn off taste buds, could you kind of undo this and still keep some of the money?
Or, like people that have had some sort of intestine problems and they have to have one of those like bags that hang out of their stomach or something, which is a bit more extreme. But all I'm saying is you can bypass it. Like we have the technology to do. And sure, it might be expensive, but is it $5 million expensive? Probably not. Probably not.
Yeah. So you could still be $4.8 million up.
Yeah, exactly. And I think so you're getting 26 taste buds a year. And people have an average of 2,000 to 8,000. That seems like a wild difference between the two. See, I'm really tempted to say that I reckon it would be fine. And until maybe you're really old.
Yeah, see, this is what I'm wondering.
Only be able to taste.
This is what I'm wondering is about 26 a year, right? Like 26 a year, and say we've got, I don't know, 50 years left on this earth, right? So 26 times 50 is 1,300.
Yeah.
So that's on the below the lower end of taste buds on the tongue. But how much do you still taste with 1,300? Because the thing is, the 5 million, it won't last until we're 80. Like realistically, that won't last until we're 80. The way that the world goes now and the way that inflation works now, it'll probably run out probably in your 60s or something. So then you're getting the taste in your 80s, but you don't have any of the money anymore.
Kevin, I think first of all you should take a look at your finances, okay? Because you need to make that money last.
Well, I'm saying like let's say I get the 5 million. First thing I'd probably do is buy a house. Here in Melbourne, as we've discussed, that's most of the 5 million gone for some reason. No, that's like
a million, maybe.
That's like $1 million. You could certainly live, but what I'm saying is like it's not like you're going to have no troubles for the rest of your life until you're 80. I think with 5 million, it is just like a very, very, very comfortable safety net. But you're still probably going to have to work to some extent, like that. If you live off the 5 million,
if you invest it smart enough, can be. Put all those shares into Apple. I've heard they're on the up and up.
Or some kind of anti-taste bud research. Because then you could be making money from them with your investment, and they would also benefit you in other ways.
Okay, Camper, I know you're not a doctor per se, but if you could put the stethoscope on for just a moment.
Not a problem. We've always wondered why we brought these stethoscopes for the show, but now it makes sense.
Now we know it's for doctor role playing. Okay, tell me if this would work. I stick a tube up my butt. A plastic tube up my butt.
Yep.
So when I poo, it bypasses the hole.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's like a plastic funnel insert into your sphincter, maybe something expandable. So what you're saying is the poop.
Yeah, so you could still cut it off. You still need the sphincter to do
it. What you're saying is that the poop at no point would actually touch the butthole.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and I reckon you could do that for relatively cheap.
And then you could just put some, like chapstick around the butthole just in case.
Yeah.
Some nice like strawberry flavored chapstick.
If someone said that occasionally you will have to chapstick your butthole. But you essentially, and you're now getting the 5 million, and you've bypassed the taste buds. I'd do it.
Yeah, I'd do that.
Yeah.
That's easy money. What I'm concerned is if it impacted the taste in my mouth, like if I'm eating food, could I also, like if I'm putting strawberry chapstick on my butthole, am I going to be tasting sort of in my mouth at the same time as I'm eating food, like a little bit of a strawberry hint?
It's a good question because I don't think that two separate things of taste buds on different ends of bodies have ever existed to know whether or not it's a thing.
Yeah, if they actually
you would think not because they're not connected, but again, we don't know enough about the...
It's a weird concept to think about.
Now, Nelson, I know I have this stethoscope on, so you think I know more about the body than I actually do. But I'm actually not sure what the how any of it works.
I mean, I suppose you would taste it from your butt, like, because the only thing I can compare it with, right, is just other senses. So you have two eyes, but if you close one eye, you're seeing out what, or the ears, you put a hand over one ear, you're hearing out. Yeah, I'm guessing it must just be that the taste is in your butt.
You know what?
It's hard to perceive, but I think
what would be a weird sensation is when you eat something. Like you kind of feel the flavor, and even if it's not true, because it's all kind of happening in your brain, you kind of feel it in your mouth.
Yeah,
right? Like at least I kind of perceive the flavor to be kind of like in my head, right?
Yeah,
eating. And would that be then? Would you get that sensation in your butt, or will your brain? Because it's all electrical signals in your brain. Will that taste still appear in my mouth?
There's only one way to find out, Cambo.
To take the 5 million.
We're gonna have to implant. Well, I don't have $5 million, but for science, I'm gonna have to implant taste buds into your butthole. So, for science, though, I'm sure you understand. You are a doctor, obviously. So,
I certainly look like one.
Yeah. Okay, here's another one. This is by Sarcastic Pre-Med.
Another fellow doctor like myself.
Another doctor. What movie's ending leaves you wanting a sequel, but at the same time you're afraid of a sequel because it would ruin the movie's ending and legacy?
It's a good question because I feel that the older I get, the less I like the idea of any sequels. Like I'm becoming quite, except for maybe something serialized like Marvel, but it's getting to a point now where if something's really good, I'm like, good, leave it now.
Yeah.
And I love it when I'm proven wrong. For instance, I really, really enjoy the movie Sicario, right? It's just a tense thriller movie about drug running on the border between Mexico and the United States. Great little action film.
Yeah.
And they announced the sequel to it, and immediately I was like, oh, this is a bad idea. Yeah. Pleasantly surprised that the sequel was good, but dreaded it the whole time before it came out.
Right.
So I feel like I have that feeling anytime anyone's like, let's do another one. Because movies are so many of them are flukes.
Yeah.
The idea that you got everyone to come together, had enough time, did it all right, it all went well on set, it all went well in editing, and then it just happened to be received at the right time in whatever like social zeitgeist happened to be going on at the time is already like a miracle enough. Then to like tempt the fates to go, do that again.
Yeah.
Always to me seems crazy. Like there's a sequel coming out right now to Bill and Ted, right?
Yeah.
And I'd never seen those movies up until very recently. I just recently watched both Bill and Ted movies, and I enjoyed them, but they're very much like 80s and early 90s movies.
Yeah.
And I'm like, these either need to be completely different movies to fit in with today, or it's going to be a really bad idea to have brought this back.
But how about stuff like, the like Star-Lord in the Guardians of the Galaxy? It's like very 80s vibe, or even the TV show with the kids and the
Stranger Things.
the
Well,
Stranger
I would say like Stranger Things is set in the 80s, but everything about it is like slick modern production.
Yeah.
Like it's just dressed
Both
up
of
like
those, I
it's
guess,
from the
yeah.
80s. But
Yeah.
like the fact that Bill and Ted are kind of like these stoner California, some of it's a bit homophobic, you know, like there's so many things about it that are very, very 80s and that are fine in the 80s that they really need to like update it to make it work. And again, I think that the fact that they were successful was this weird lightning in a bottle that just happened to be like Back to the Future was probably big in the mid 80s. So everyone was big on like time travel, the 80s aesthetic, the rock music, stuff like that, like a lot of it. But now that's been 40 years since any of that. They need something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. That's a good point. I think the chances of me being so great is unlikely to repeat itself. I was actually really happy that the other day I was watching I can't even remember the title of it. It was a Netflix film with Chris Hemsworth.
Oh, Extraction?
Extraction, yeah.
That's getting a sequel.
What?
Yep.
Oh my god, you've just totally ruined the point I was going to make, Cameron. About 3/4 of the way through the film, I'm like, oh god, I hope he dies, because I don't want there to be a sequel to this. Like, it wasn't even that great. It wasn't an amazing film, but I was like, I just don't want there to be another one for this. And then he died at the end. So I was like, oh, spoilers, by the way. Then he died at the end. I was like, oh, thank God. At least that's done and dusted. It was just one crazy movie. It'd be totally fine. But no, apparently doing a sequel.
See what I mean?
With
Like,
him? Does he come back?
I don't know that much about it, honestly, other than like when it came out on Netflix. There's a trend that every time Netflix has like a big original movie and they release it, they also release a statement being like, it's the biggest film ever on Netflix every single time without fail. So first of all, I don't believe any time they say it, but because it was such a big hit for Netflix, they were like, wow, do that again, obviously, because we need people to keep subscribing. Otherwise this model is flawed.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is also why apparently shows on Netflix will last an average of about 3 seasons. Because that's what they've dictated roughly. If you're not in it by season 3, you're probably not going to be into the show. And at that point, you're not going to sign up for the show. So there's no point really producing it beyond that, because you're not going to get any signups for it. So if you look at the history of Netflix show, there's some exceptions, but very rarely 2 to 3 seasons, and then they'll chop it. Done. They don't need any more because you're not going to sign up anymore. Like you're not going to get anyone new coming in for that show.
Yeah. It's an interesting concept, isn't it? But especially funny when you've got something like The Office, right? Which obviously wasn't Netflix production. And but it has had such a big impact of like their number one watched show, and it's now going to, I mean, in Australia it's already moved, but I think in America it's only recently or at the end of the year going to another streaming service. And it's like, you will legitimately lose people because they love that TV show so much. So it's like, it's that funny thing, isn't it? Where it's like, as a producer or somebody who's just looking at the profits of Netflix, statistically, yes, 3 seasons should be max. But once in a blue moon, if you actually have this TV show that does so friggin' well that it brings you way more people, it's worth like putting in the effort. But they'll never get to that point because they won't want to invest the money in that 1 in a million chance.
The one I'm interested in is Stranger Things, because it's like they're darling. Like, you think of Netflix, you probably think of Stranger Things, and it's had 3 seasons. I want to know, because that is their biggest hit by far, how long they're willing to let that go before they're like, there's no point anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think that'll be the high watermark for any Netflix show ever, to be like, you just got to get at least a Stranger Things level of episodes.
Yeah, definitely. Getting back to the question, actually, quickly, the one movie that stood out to me was like, I would love the idea of the sequel, but I definitely don't want it to exist, I think, is Inception.
Yep.
I think that's like such an interesting film. It's so well done. It's like story is amazing, and at the end, it still is almost like leaves you hanging a little bit.
Yeah,
So
it has like an unresolved ending of sorts.
yeah,
Like
of sorts.
I would say emotionally it's everything's resolved, the character arcs are complete, but there is a thread that is hanging open in that movie.
Yeah, yeah. And you're like, they probably technically could come out with a sequel, but I just don't think it would be good. And I would definitely, I want to see like another. I would almost prefer actually if they went to a TV series and they did some sort of like long arc TV series where I can be like, I'm happy that the movie in itself is fine.
Yeah.
But also like, I like the idea of exploring this world and like what other crazy things can you come up with?
Yeah. You know what I think though? Like I agree with you that the world is really interesting and a TV show could flesh it out, but I think similar to like The Matrix or even I'm going to say Star Wars, the more that they do that, the more you're going to start realizing that only a couple of things really work in that world as a story. Like, like I think Star Wars is a good example. It's got this huge mythos, but anything beyond like a ragtag team of rebels taking on a larger entity really just doesn't seem to work in that world. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like there's only a couple of things you can really do in Star Wars, and The Matrix is the same. Like imagine at the end of The Matrix, they do kind of tease, well, Neo's flying now for some reason and he's helping others escape the Matrix. That's like kind of the end of the first Matrix film. If they had left it there, I think that would have been an interesting open ending without any of the whatever philosophical conversations in a train station or whatever happened in those other movies.
yeah, you've summed that up well. Yeah. Well, that's true. It's you definitely could have left at the end of Matrix. I'm like sort of glad, even though Matrix 2 and 3 weren't as good, I'm still glad as somebody who really enjoyed that world, like got to hear that other, like lore and theory about what could be in this world. Like I enjoyed that they explored all these different facets.
But I think that the thing that those sequels proved is that in the end of the day, there's only a handful of things in the Matrix that really made it click as the Matrix. And if they strayed too far from it, you started going, I don't like this. Go back to the Highway Fight or whatever, which is very similar to the first one.
Yeah, that's right. Just some more action. Make Neo shoot somebody.
Yeah, say some entry level philosophy.
Yeah,
get a big gun and fight someone.
Is that bullets you're shooting now? Being in the sequel instead of the whole train conversation. All right, Gabber. That's if I ask right. Let's get into Today I Advice.
So now it's time for Today I Learned.
Today I Learned.
And also sometimes advice.
This Today I Learned is by Literally 12 So Fuss. Today I learned Jim Carrey was the first actor to have 3 films go straight to #1 in the same year. The year was 1994, and the films were The Mask, Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, and Dumb and Dumber.
That's a big year, but do you think that was also the year that everyone's like, he can do so much, but then he just kept doing that same thing for every that really like wide slapstick elastic face kind of thing.
It's like I remember specifically when the Truman Show was meant to be coming out, and people were like, you got Jim Carrey to do this? Have you seen all the other work that he does?
He was talking from his butt in that Ace Ventura movie.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is weird to think, like, I think now people accept the fact that Jim Carrey will occasionally do a serious role and he is quite good. But Truman Show was 97, Ace Ventura was 94. That's not that long for the public to have changed their minds about Jim Carrey from talking out his butt and like all the catchphrases in The Mask to that.
And in fact, When Nature Calls, right, would have been
probably like 95, 96.
Yeah, it must have been 1 or 2 years afterwards. So then to go into the Truman Show is like he's still doing those crazy, stupid roles. But yeah, I think it's like amazing that like I don't you wish that you had that sort of career as Jim Carrey, I reckon. Like the idea that you can be typecast and at that moment in time, kind of like what you were saying about movies previously, is like everything was just going on. Like a few things clicked together to make him and that genre so well received by the public that like he was just the number one star that year and probably for a few years either side. And but then he was able to be like, okay, like let's go on to other stuff. Like I feel like that's just so
well.
Yeah,
I actually recently read Jim Carrey's autobiography, and he does talk. It's not good, by the way. Don't read it, but he does talk about this a little bit, like the idea that he had this phenomenal run. Because even after that year, you look at like When Nature Calls, the sequel to Ace Ventura, but also like he was in Batman as well. He was the Riddler between that. Like he had this like for about 7 to 8 years nonstop. The biggest film of the year was a Jim Carrey movie. And the idea that if you live like that long enough, you just become completely deluded. Like you're just like, I guess I'm unstoppable. And then when it does stop, it hits you like a ton of bricks.
Yeah. Then he did Mr. Popper's Penguins.
Yeah. He talks, there's a thinly veiled thing in that movie about him wanting to do really interesting, weird movies and Disney wanting him to do a movie involving animals. And he never names Mr. Popper's Penguins, but I think anyone familiar enough with Jim Carrey can pretty easily piece together that he's talking about Mr. Popper's Penguins.
Yeah.
And how much he didn't want to make it.
Yeah. Hey, remember those other movies you were really good with animals? We want you to do that again.
I don't know whether we've talked about this in the show or I've talked about this with you just in general, but I know that of those, Ace Ventura was kind of at least the first in production, and he was like an unknown. It had a really small budget, and I think to read the script of Ace Ventura is one thing, and then to watch the performance that Jim Carrey hands in as Ace Ventura, like you could seemingly read it pretty straightforward, right? He's just this kind of this guy that is like good with animals. He's like, someone says, well, you've got to do this, and Ace Ventura says, alrighty then. And then as an executive with an unknown Jim Carrey that you've given like $250,000 to make this film, and you watch the first cut and he's wearing the Hawaiian shirt, he's got the hair, and he's going, ha ha ha, righty then. You'd just be going, what's he done?
We have made a big mistake.
Like there's no way that the first cut of that to people that didn't know who Jim Carrey was, they were like, this is great. No way.
Yeah, exactly. Just imagine all the other brilliant actors can be that we won't see because they cancel the production. I've been in a few movies and TV shows.
But like, I feel like you always hear about that kind of story, like Jim Carrey, or I famously, when the first Pirates of the Caribbean were getting filmed, and they saw some clips of Johnny Depp, they were like, oh, he's going to ruin this movie. What the hell is he doing? But now that's become like the most iconic part, this weird drunken Keith Richards impression that he was doing.
Yeah. What I think is funny is the opposite is true for Keanu Reeves. They were like, this guy can't act at all. But let's put him in the movies and see what happens.
You know what I thought was kind of funny? Like, because I was watching the Bill and Ted movies for the first time recently, and they're such like heightened California surfer dude stoner kind of stereotypes. And it's funny because you would watch that and think, oh, Keanu Reeves is putting on a voice. Like the way he's like, whoa, Bill, like that. But then cut to, 2014 with John Wick. And he's like, yeah, I'm thinking I might be back. It's like, it's weird that is just your voice. Because you would assume watching Bill and Ted that it's fake, and it's not.
Yeah. Anyway, Jim Carrey, great guy.
Bad book.
Don't read the book.
No.
He's no author. Here's another one. This is by Derpington1231. Today I learned that British comedian Tony Hawk's became so frustrated with being mistaken for pro skateboarder Tony Hawk has published a book called Tony Hawk's The A to Z of Skateboarding that contains nothing about skateboarding.
That's great. I quite enjoy Tony Hawk's. So Tony Hawk's is, for those that don't know, I would suggest looking up. There's a really fun British radio program that we've podnapped in the past, I believe. It's called The Unbelievable Truth, hosted by David Mitchell, where people have to give essays on a subject and they need to sneak 5 lies into the essay at some point. People need to recognize them. And Tony Hawk's is one of the team captains on that. But I do believe he once gave a lecture. One of his essays was on Tony Hawk.
All right, yeah. It's just like such a great concept, I think. I mean, it's good that he was already famous, I guess. But like, if I knew there was another Nelson Allingham, I would absolutely exploit that other Nelson Allingham.
Yeah, Tony Hawk's should put out Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, the video game.
Yeah, exactly.
And just kind of like take the bare bones of whatever the programming of the original Tony Hawk movie was, the game was, sorry, and then just reskin it with Tony Hawk's instead of Tony Hawk.
Add an S.
Yeah.
That's all you need to do. Because I think it's so funny because like surely there's going to be multiple Michael Campbells out there in the world.
Oh, yeah. One
of those is going to be famous camping. Exploit that Michael Campbell.
Yeah, I think there's a Michael Campbell that's a golfer, maybe.
Okay.
Not the most exciting, but I will exploit it.
But people would buy a book called Michael Campbell's Guide to Golf. I think you need to invest in this idea. Okay.
Just like there's Michael Jordan, the basketball player, and there's also Michael B. Jordan, the actor.
Yeah.
And I would say that Michael B. Jordan should definitely write a book about basketball.
Do you reckon he's really annoyed that he has to use the B? There is no way that he made that decision.
You know what I reckon it is as well? Is like I know like a lot of actors guilds and stuff. There's actors have changed their names because their names have technically been taken. And you know that Michael Jordan had that name because of Space Jam. So Michael B. Jordan had to add the B into his name because of Space Jam.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, Canberra, I think we should move on to shower thoughts.
Shower thoughts, shower thoughts, shower thoughts, shower thoughts.
This shower thought is by Skystrider99. If you think you look ugly in glasses, it may just be because you can see your face better with them. Really slap in the face.
It really is. Yeah.
Ugly people with poor eyes.
Yeah, imagine thinking, oh, my eyes aren't much, but at least I'm a bloody picture to look at. And then you finally get the glasses and you put them on and you're like, oh no. The one thing I had. My vanity.
Yeah. Oh, it's so funny. I guess you would find out if you had contacts, right? If you went around and you're like, oh, I'm ugly because of these glasses. And then somebody said, try contacts. You couldn't deny it then.
Yeah. I think no one looks ugly in glasses. There's just ugly glasses.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, in fact, I think most of the time I prefer the look of somebody that wears glasses.
Yeah.
I think it's like, I don't know. It's probably just because my brain associates it with like smart people or something like that. Or there's like, a certain trope around.
Yeah. But I also think like if you've got a big pair of like grandma style glasses, then yeah, they might not look great. But if you've got like a nice trendy pair of, I don't know, thin wire framed glasses, they're probably going to look fantastic.
Do you think maybe that is an indication of somebody's sexual preference, perhaps?
The glasses that they wear.
To get to grandma style glasses, well, maybe that's just what they prefer.
So you're saying, yeah, okay, so you wear the glasses of which you are sexually attracted to.
Yeah.
Okay, I buy it, and I'm a doctor.
Yeah, you are. It's like those ones with, the flared kind of wings that kind of come up at the top, really over the top. Those people into birds.
I do feel that, like, disproportionately, those people probably are into birds.
I said it as a joke, but honestly, it could be true.
They're more likely to own a parrot or something.
Yeah.
And wear a lot of, like, thin, silky scarves.
Yeah. Well, didn't John, what's his name?
Oliver? I'm just trying to think of a John with glasses.
No, I can't think of his name. Never mind.
Point cancelled.
Point cancel. Edit that bit out. Don't need that bit. It's irrelevant. Here's another one. This is by Competitive Juice 387. The day we can control a computer with our thoughts is the same day we lose the last of our privacy.
Well, I mean, it's interesting to think that you still really have privacy. Like you can get privacy, but the default is not to have privacy. You get a computer, you set up the internet, you take several other steps to then ensure your privacy. The baseline isn't any kind of privacy anyway.
Yeah. You need to go off the grid, as they say, if you want privacy. I think society hasn't had privacy for like a very long time. Yeah. We've had perceived privacy, and I think that's why it's funny when there's that big thing about TikTok and how much data they farm, and then somebody put together this like chart of all the things that all the other apps like Google and Apple and all that stuff, like the stuff that they take from you, and it's far more than TikTok. Yeah. And really that issue about TikTok isn't that they take your data, it's that it's owned by a Chinese company.
Yeah. It's like there's a battle going on at the moment between Google and like YouTube and the political party in this country, because they want this like unprecedented access to Google's data. But it's because it's also going to go to the Murdoch press.
Yeah.
To which Google are like, no, that's our data. You can't have it. And the government's like, you will legally need to hand it over to us. To which I'm like, no, they don't. Like, they've captured it, sure. And you can feel whatever way you want to feel about it. But at no point do I want them then to give that data to other people.
Yeah. Isn't that funny that we inherently trust a multi-billion-dollar company more than we do our own government?
Especially because our government is so in bed with the Murdoch press.
Yeah. Just lots of people that we don't want them to be in bed with, probably, in general. It's just it's a funny thought. I think the other reason I brought this up actually is because earlier this week I watched a live demonstration for Neuralink, which is Elon Musk's business endeavor, which is about putting basically, I'm going to simplify it a lot, but putting a chip into your head that reads your brainwaves, the neurons and such that let off pulses. And it the idea is meant to give and receive information. So the idea is that it can help with illnesses and diseases, things like curing blindness or deafness, because if you're able to like implant it straight into the brain kind of thing, you can manipulate from there. And it really is interesting, like totally fascinating. And they do talk about like the wild applications that could eventually, come out in one day. And the way that they are constructing it isn't just to, let's see if we can, like do this for one person. Their idea is, part of what they're doing is creating a machine that can perform this procedure, essentially brain surgery, without the aid of a doctor. So that, or rather, without the doctor doing it themselves, so that they can go through hundreds and thousands or millions of surgeries, because obviously that makes it more
accessible,
scalable.
Yeah,
because you couldn't just train every doctor to do this like procedure, especially because it's so delicate and things like that. But it is really interesting, and they've done it in pigs already. They had this demonstration of pigs that they were showing, like one of the pigs that actually had this implant in their head, and it was like showing how it was reading this information. But they were talking about the idea of the concept of telepathy. If you and somebody else had one of these devices, they could essentially talk to each other without you actually speaking. It's all theory, really. For this. There are some stuff that they're like, oh no, we know factually we can do this, but that sort of stuff is a little bit more theoretical, and it's just it does seem funny, right? Because at the moment, privacy is about what we output.
Yeah.
If people could get my thoughts down on paper, I would be in jail, Camper.
Yeah.
I think I could be prosecuted for those thoughts.
Yeah, but especially because sometimes you just have fleeting thoughts, catch yourself and go, oh my God, why did I think that? That's terrible.
Yeah.
But that doesn't matter at that point. If you've thought it at all.
It reminds me of a
like for just quickly, for instance, as an example, if anyone doesn't know what I'm thinking about or talking about, I'm sure every guy's had the situation, looked at a girl, go, she's hot. Oh, actually, no, a bit young. But that doesn't matter.
Please.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm watching the Cobra Kai, the spin-off of Karate Kid, which, by the way, is amazing. And the main girl, incredibly attractive, very young.
Yeah.
Very young, okay? But it's I can't say that I didn't think about it.
Yeah.
All right?
And but now, because you'd never act on anything like that.
I'd never act on it.
Yeah, it's a human impulse. But if you can track people's thoughts as data, they will just have in cold data, Nelson, attraction, young girl,
Exactly. Yeah. That's right. It's not about what you thought afterwards.
No.
It doesn't matter. You have potentially the idea that you might do that one day under the right circumstances.
And then you start getting served ads that you don't want to get served.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Chemical castration. What the?
Yeah. Okay, here, but anyway, I was going to say that Neuralink thing, very interesting and really legitimately seems like it's going to happen within our lifetime, something like that. Depending on how, how many people in the world have it by the time we are dead or not is undetermined, but like they're scaling up really hard. And the way they talk about it is, it does exist. Like, this is not theoretical anymore. Like, they are reading brainwaves. They are able to action things from that. Like, and they're working with the FDA, who've already approved like certain aspects of it. And it's really super crazy, super interesting that we could be mentally linked with computers.
I love the fact that Elon Musk is the one that is trying to access people's brainwaves. And people still think Bill Gates is the one that is trying to control everyone.
Yeah. Elon Musk is not even trying to hide it. He's trying to broadcast the fact that this is what he's doing.
He's giving away demonstrations being like, we're reading this pig's mind. Isn't it crazy?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so really interesting. And I know even because obviously Elon Musk, you hear about that one a lot, but I know that Gabe Newell, who is actually the billionaire who owns Steam, which is like the gaming sort of platform, he said recently on a talk show that the idea of like the Matrix and being uploaded is he said it's really close, much closer than anybody thinks, and which I think is interesting because I don't think he was necessarily referring to Neuralink, but just that he knows that people are working on this technology. So I think that's really interesting to show that, okay, it's not even just one company. It's not even just Elon Musk company. There's probably lots of people working on this. How do you connect brains to computers? It's going to be crazy future.
Just like a little philosophical 101. But if you could be uploaded and you know it's a synthetic world, but it also means you're like at your physical peak and you have like just this absolutely wonderful life. Would you do it?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I probably would as well.
What is life if not just a...
I reckon I'd live out the prime of my life in the real world, and then when it starts declining, plug me in.
Plug me in, mate. That's all I want. And it would be so good to be like plugged into where we're like, I don't have to eat, I don't have to sleep.
Yeah.
It's just I can just do things that I enjoy. Like if we didn't have to eat and if we didn't have to sleep, then money is no object, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like you would just look for forms of entertainment, basically, is all you had to do. And like, load me up, Camper. I'm ready. Stab my body with swords, throw me into a plane, upload me to a computer. Not in that order. Do it the reverse order.
Make sure you upload me first. I cannot stress that enough.
Yeah. They upload me as I'm like melting in the volcano. Okay. Okay. Let's move on now to the Ask Me Anything. Where listeners of the show, just like you, listener, can write in and ask us anything you want. We're foregoing podnapping again. Next week, definitely, I'll do my podnapping.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do like fortnightly or something.
Yeah.
See how we go. But,
every 2 weeks, then that way we can kind of catch up on the emails. But every time we say that, more people email us. It's like the snake that eats its own tail.
Yeah.
We got one here from Sal. Was it Sol or Sal? I forget.
Sol.
It says,
Better
hi.
call Sol.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, we did say that. Hi, guys. It's Sol again. Just wanted to let you know that I tried meth and I loved it. Thank you so much for helping me take the next step to my full Florida man transformation. My name is actually...
I'm not suggesting meth, but it does make sense.
It does make a lot of sense. My name is actually common in Mexicano. I used to live in Mexico. Actually, one of my best friends' name is Sol. I would say that if he is famous in any way, you should try and profit off having the same name, as we've discussed.
Profit off that dude.
Unfortunately, I've not been able to do anything that will get me in the news as a Florida man. But one time, a lady crashed her car into the side of one of the apartments next door to mine. Also, found some Florida man news headlines you might enjoy. Do you have those links?
Yeah, I actually do. Sorry, I went back in and got them because they were screenshots. So,
right.
Happy how to progress. Okay, here's one. It says Florida man steals $33,000 worth of rare coins, cashes them in Coinstar machine for $29.30. I think that's a service to the public. That means you're getting ripped, I think, from these machines.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Whoever empties that machine wins.
Wins, exactly. Here's another one. A Florida man who allegedly threatened family with Coldplay lyrics ends standoff after SWAT promises him pizza. That is such a random event.
There's so many aspects that bring up questions that
Allegedly threatened family with Coldplay lyrics.
Yeah. Like how did that escalate to a SWAT team? And then how did the SWAT team then negotiate him down to just a pizza? These are all questions I have.
Yeah, exactly. But it was just those two.
Okay. And then there's an AMA. What is the stupidest thing you've ever done? Example, start this podcast. Just kidding. Keep up the great work, guys.
What is the stupidest thing I've ever
Here's
done?
the thing. I feel like we say and do stupid things every week on this podcast that I'm becoming so numb to my own dumb actions, which I think is dangerous, to be fair.
Yeah. That is true.
And here's the thing, this might sound really self-aggrandizing and maybe even a little bit arrogant, but people seem to like our buffoonery. So we're getting nothing but reward for our stupidity, which I don't think is maybe healthy. But now whenever I do something stupid, I'm like, geez, what a little scamp, what a little charmer I am.
Yeah, that's that. Okay, yeah. I mean, I think that's probably true. This is a bad influence on us. This podcast. Some people would think it's a bad influence on others, but it's actually a bad influence on us.
We don't think of others. We think of ourselves.
Exactly. Oh God, what is the stupidest thing I've ever done? I mean, I feel like I've just done so many stupid things in my life.
Yeah, I don't think there's one big, like, there's no Moby Dick of stupid, I think that I've done. There's no one thing that I can look at being like, that is where it all went wrong because of that stupid thing.
Yeah.
There's just a very consistent amount of small stupid things that I do every day.
The other day, I forgot to change some dates on a document that I submitted to my boss. That was stupid.
But again, small, stupid, every day. That's our style.
Yeah, that's how we like to do it. Actually, one thing that I think I've spoken about before, which does seem like really stupid, is when I fractured my arm. I was on a BMX track, and at the top of the hill, I decided to turn because I didn't really understand momentum. That's probably one of the biggest stupid things I've done in my life. Because there was no logic behind that thought process. I think that's it.
No, Nelson, what am I talking about? I once subscribed to Loot Crate. That's probably
my God, that's definitely the stupidest.
It's probably the stupidest thing I've ever done.
Okay, here's another one. It's from Ben. He says, Indiana Jones is a girl's name, possibly a porn star. Discuss. Then he wrote in another email. He said, my new question, and he said, I think that its subject was ignore the last question. My new question is, the biggest problem in the world is overpopulation / modern lifestyle. Could the / save us? Discuss.
Just on the first point, it's not a girl's name, it's a dog's name.
Indiana Jones. Dogs don't have last names there.
Have you not seen the third film?
No?
He keeps calling him Junior, and he's like, why his name's Indiana? And Sean Connery goes, he's not Indiana. We called the dog Indiana.
So I still don't get that.
So Indiana Jones he liked that.
Indiana Jones.
No, his name is Henry Jones Jr.
Henry Jones.
His name is
The movies are a lie? Is that what you're telling me?
Indiana Jones's name is Henry Jones Jr., but he calls himself Indiana. But it turns out that Indiana was actually the name of his dog.
Oh my God, this is just blown my mind. This is insane. I can't believe that.
Question, was the dog a boy or a girl? We don't know.
We don't know. Could have been female. It does sound like a porn star name.
Yeah, Indiana Jones.
Just Indiana in general.
Yeah.
Sounds like an attractive porn star.
And if you're a porn star, make use of the popular name.
Exactly.
Use the Tony Hawk's method.
Use Tony Hawk's method. Go in, pretend you are Indiana Jones's Guide to Temples, but really, it's just you stripping.
Yeah, like
it's a picture book of you stripping. I don't know.
So anyway, let's go to this next question.
The biggest problem in the world is overpopulation / modern lifestyle. Could the / save us? Discuss. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
I was listening to Slash the other day. He did an acoustic version of Sweet Child of Mine.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you, beautiful. It's actually beautiful. And I think based on that alone, he definitely could.
The Slash couldn't even save Guns N' Roses. I don't think he is in a position to save all of us.
Is that only because he was focusing on the bigger world problems of overpopulation?
I've never considered. Maybe he was the hero that we really like. Everyone's like, oh my God, I can't believe you left Guns N' Roses. But he was like, guys, I'm leaving for the bigger cause.
Yeah. At the moment, there's too many of us. I'm going to help out. It doesn't sound like he's going to go on a murderous rampage, which could also be fair enough. So could the / save us? Yes. But not the smaller, finer things in life. Here, yes.
So I was going to say, I have one here, unless you have anything else to say about the overpopulation modern lifestyle quandary.
I agree. We are overpopulated. And what we should do is put implants in everybody's head, but it makes them less sexually active. And they won't even know. That's pretty genius. I'm going to tell Elon.
Well, yeah, I think that.
Well, I'll tell the Slash first, obviously.
Yeah, tell the Slash first. He'll pass it on to Elon. He'll dumb it down for Elon.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I agree. So we got one here from Hal. says, hi guys, I'm a long-time listener and I thought it was about time I write in and put my hand up to be your Tasmanian correspondent. After you saying that you hate Tasmania on your last podcast, I thought I'd write in and let you know that I fully support your stance. My only problem is that you're probably not going quite far enough with your anti-Tasmania message. We Tasmanians like living here, but people keep moving down here from interstate and overseas, and it's really annoying. I know that you've done the old Tasmanians are all inbred thing, and that helps keep some of the interlopers away, but I'm worried it's likely to attract an entire population from Frankston. That's very good. That's very good local reference. Do you think you'd be able to double down on your anti-Tas rhetoric for us? I can help. People should know that we don't have a lot of things down here that mainland Australia does. No IKEA, no Starbucks, no Krispy Kreme, no Uber in some places, no Bunnings. Okay, I lied with that last one, but people don't have to know. Actually, you should lie too. Tell them that we drive on the wrong side of the road and backwards, and that all our cars are that shaggy dog car from Dumb and Dumber. That ought to do it. Anyway, love the podcast. Please help warn the world about Tasmania so that we can keep it to ourselves. Hell. P.S. You were talking about the real estate in Melbourne, how a unit cost $800,000. Here's what you can get in Tasmania for that money. Terrible, huh? I mean, it looks okay, but it's built by inbreds. And he sent a link here to one of the best houses I've ever seen.
It's really beautiful house. It is so close to like sparkling blue water.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of rooms. It has a outside pizza oven.
I do have one question about this house. I live in a 2-bedroom unit with 1 car spot. Whereas this is a house with 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and an astonishing 14 car spaces according to this website. I'm very curious about the 14 car spaces.
I think the thing is, because obviously all Tasmanians are inbred. Yeah. They sleep in the same beds together, but there's a lot living together, and they all need a space for their cars. So it makes sense. It makes sense. Yes, but was there anything else?
No, he just wanted an anti-Tasmania rhetoric to be out there.
Here's the thing. If everybody had the Dumb and Dumber car, I think that would improve Tasmania's rating.
Yeah, you need everyone to drive like a PT Cruiser or something.
Yeah, something terrible. Okay, I'm going to let you in on a little secret, Hal. Some things you've mentioned here, Starbucks and Krispy Kremes. I'd like to touch on these things, and the fact that you don't have them in Tasmania, and that is why it's a bad place. What happened in Melbourne, I remember, is that Krispy Kreme came to Australia. They opened up one store in Sydney, New South Wales, and it was off the chain. The store was selling out of donuts.
Was that Krispy Kreme? I thought that was the second coming of Jesus.
Yeah, well, some people.
The way that people were lining up for Krispy Kreme donuts.
Yeah, like around the block. And what would happen was, if somebody had to go to, Sydney on business or something, they would buy some donuts and bring them to Melbourne. And it was like, oh, you're the savior. You've bought these great donuts. From the beginning, I'd like to say, I was like, no, these donuts aren't that tasty at all. Like, I don't actually think they were that good. And then what happened was, Krispy Kreme made it to Melbourne, and for the first maybe 2 weeks, this store's again totally sold out of donuts in the first 3 hours of opening, and then so they popped up lots of locations, and I reckon within a year, they started closing down some locations because people were just like, oh, these aren't that good, and it was just the hype of not being able to have it. Yeah. And so because I used to have to fly down to Tasmania for work, and my employees would always say, oh, did you bring Krispy Kremes? I thought it was such a weird thing, because I'm like, it's not that good. And I feel like I need to tell every Tasmanian, it's not that good. Yeah. Just because you don't have it, you feel like it's the best. And it's absolutely
That's the thing. It's
like Starbucks as well. Like, Starbucks doesn't do well in Australia.
No, especially because Australia's really arrogant about all their coffee as well. Specifically Melbourne as well, the most arrogant city in the world. They'll tell you they have the best coffee in the world. You don't even have to prompt them.
Yeah.
who shake their hands, and before the handshake is done, they'll be like, "Do you know Melbourne has the best coffee in the world?" But what I find funny is that Starbucks went from this thing that people would line up for hours. There was one of the girls I work with, when they opened up in Adelaide, in her hometown, someone stabbed someone else outside of Krispy Kreme, like due to demand for these donuts. Went from doing that, opening up individual bespoke Krispy Kreme stores, to shutting them all down, to striking up a partnership with 7-Eleven, the convenience store slash gas station, petrol stations here, where they sell them at the counter now. So it's gone from being like this commodity that people would trade like gold to now whenever I'm filling up my car and the guy's like, "Do you want a Krispy Kreme?" I'm like, "No, absolutely not."
I don't want that piece of shit.
But this is something I think Americans should be aware of, is that it doesn't matter how crappy or run-of-the-mill one of your stores or restaurants is. If they open a pop-up anywhere in Melbourne, it's a craze. They opened up, I used to work on a very popular street in Melbourne called Chapel Street, and they opened up an In-N-Out burger for 2 days, and there was lines down the street. And I've had In-N-Out. It's fine.
Yeah.
And they've just announced, I think, that they're bringing a Five Guys to somewhere in Melbourne as well. And everyone's losing their mind about that. It's always the biggest thing to have the most average American fast food here.
I think the lesson here is don't open up more locations. Like, have one in one location and have people go absolutely apeshit for it. That's like what you need to do.
What I want to see is that a pop-up in America, people lining up down the streets for a red rooster, Nelson. That's my dream. Get a rooster roll combo.
Yeah.
Get a cheeseburger with a chicken patty.
I'm going to be honest with you. If I was in America or any other country and I saw a red rooster, I'm going to eat them. I wouldn't do it in Australia, but I'm like, I need to check this out.
Yeah.
Anywhere else in the world.
The only time I ever go to a red rooster is if I don't want to wait in a line because it's guaranteed to be an empty store.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah. They're going to make your burger like so fast.
Yeah.
It's going to be unbelievable. Okay, I have one last one here. It's by Cousin Rowan. He says, "Gentlemen, I recently had a today I fucked up moment where after working from home and being at home so much, I became so accustomed to having my wireless earbuds in listening to podcasts that I had a wee while on the phone to my mum without realizing. I've been thinking about the other today I fucked up moments and it made me think of a challenge. AMA minus 94.0. Each of you post a fake Today I Fucked Up story in the Today I Fucked Up subreddit. Whoever gets the most upvotes before the next episode wins. Cheers, Cousin Ron."
Oh, a challenge, eh?
A challenge. And let me tell you, we will definitely remember this challenge.
Yeah. I can't wait till next Monday when you message me because you're doing the show notes. And you're like, "Did you do the Today I Fucked Up?" And I'm like, posting it now.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to definitely forget to do that. But that's
challenge
fine.
accepted. You can quote us on that.
Can I just say, okay, we're living in 2020. I think it should be socially acceptable that you can be on the phone while going to the toilet.
Yeah. If there's a year that everything's just got to slide, it's 2020.
Yeah, well, I think just in general, we're all plugged in, we're all online, and we also need to go to the toilet. Okay, we can do those things simultaneously. What is so bad? Tell me what is so bad about peeing while on the phone to somebody?
I feel like guys have the advantage of being able to discreetly pee if your aim is true.
Yeah, well, no, actually, I think it's almost like the ups. I don't know. I feel like if I sit down, I can, I can.
No, so I think because you've got the pool of water at the bottom of the pool, right? In
toilet, yeah.
So I'm using the drop the kids off at the pool metaphor here.
Yeah.
But you've got like a lot of like base of the toilet.
Yeah.
And if you were to pee, let's say low pressure pee.
Yeah.
It's a higher risk. I will say that higher risk of splashback over the lid. But if you're to like higher in the base, so it's not hitting the water. You can pee pretty stealthily. I like to think that's how a ninja pees.
But see, I do the same thing, but you can sit down and still pee on that same spot. But then you've also got your legs like covering.
Yeah. Okay.
Down, escaping out.
Yeah. You've got a lid.
Yeah, if you've got a fat enough butt, you can make that soundproof. You just have to kind of like suck yourself into that.
Yeah. You want to cause like an airtight suction to the to the seat.
But all I'm saying is there's no dire consequence for if I'm on the phone to somebody like, hey, I'm peeing right now. What is the bad consequence? There's nothing. It's just inferred. Oh, this is not a thing you should do.
Yeah.
But it's fine otherwise. There is no difference whether they do or don't know that I'm peeing at the time. I think it's totally fine.
I think it's a game, and if they recognize you're peeing, you've lost the game and they've won the game.
Okay.
But if they don't recognize you're peeing, you've won the game and they've lost, and they don't even know that they've lost, which is a second embarrassment.
Do you know what I think we should do, or everybody should do from now on? Is every conversation you have with somebody, you say, "Hey, am I peeing right now?"
Okay,
Sometimes you might not be peeing.
Look, I'm scared to suggest this, but we have had some people that are a fan of surprise interviews, specifically when you called your mum.
Yeah.
And we could start a game in which we call your mom. Maybe we're in the bathroom, maybe we're not. And your mom has to guess whether or not you're peeing right now.
Yeah.
It's called Surprise Interview, Am I Peeing Edition.
Am I peeing?
I would say if we get enough 5-star reviews on our podcast, that segment will become a thing.
It could still be random people. Doesn't just have to be like.
We'll start with your mom and expand out.
It could be surprise interview. And then just at the end, we're like, hey, do you think we were peeing in that interview?
What do you reckon? Right. We need 4 new 5-star reviews and that will become a segment?
Okay, sure. Sounds good. Okay, but that's it. So thank you.
Wait. Why don't we call it Surprise Into Poo?
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. And we have to be pooing on it.
Yeah.
I like at some point in the conversation. You're like,
we ended on a high. That's good.
To throw them off. You don't know. It's part of the game. All part of the game. Okay. So thank you, Rowan and Hal and Ben and Sol. If you would like to write into us, you can do so. Reddit podcast, readit podcast @gmail.com. Oh, that reminds me. Actually, last week we said you should shave your head. And we had a picture on our subreddit of him who shaved his head. I'm honestly not sure if he did it because of the episode. I think he probably didn't.
We also did promise that if anyone posted a picture, it would be the most upvoted picture on our subreddit. So if people can help us out with that, that would be good.
I think it's probably pretty close.
Oh, good. Because we're not liars.
Yeah, we are not like we may promise something that we can't
deliver.
But we're not liars. But anyway, yes, you can reach us Facebook and Twitter, our subreddit. It's all READIT podcast.
Yes, and if you wouldn't mind, we'd love a 5-star review. Rate us 5 stars on iTunes or whatever your podcast platform is. Leave a nice review. That helps us in whatever the algorithm is. Sometimes we go up, sometimes we go down in rankings. We have no idea why any of it happens, but we're pretty sure that reviews play a big part in that. So leave a 5-star review. Request us doing surprise interpoo if you want. But that'll really help us out.
Because it'd be maybe into Lou.
Oh, okay. Surprise in the loo.
Okay. That's it. So thanks for listening. Later.
All right, hit stop.